There's a spirit injury that happens when fanatical parents take their religious beliefs or their ideological beliefs to such an extreme that they have to gaslight the kids about the nature of reality, about who is safe and what is really happening when things feel unsafe and when they feel not real and not okay. So this is called bypassing, where a person bypasses facing what is dangerous or wrong so that they can keep up the narrative that everything is great. Everyone has faith in something that they can't prove, but it's the lying, the parents who force you to deny what is right in front of you that can shut down your intuition and damage your instinct to thrive. My letter today is from a man I'll call Thomas, and he writes, "Hi, Anna. My parents were not terrible people, but they were completely emotionally unaware. When there was a challenge, mental, emotional, physical, social, anything, their approach was to try to solve it through their religious wishful thinking." There we go. I've got my fairy pencil. I'm going to circle things I want to come back to on a second reading, but let's just read Thomas's letter and see what's going on. He says, "So injuries, emotions, needs were not only ignored, but we were then told that it was our own thinking that was the cause of them. I had asthma as a child, which my dad told me was the fault of my anger, which, incidentally, I learned from him, the anger, I guess. Now I see you say that asthma is actually sometimes a result of CPTSD. What a vicious cycle. He was always very focused on grades. I was a good student, but even so, he would lose his head at the occasional slip-up. I don't remember this, but my sister remembers him losing it if somebody spilled milk at the table. Do you know what I love now? Being super chill and saying, oops, let's clean it up together if my daughter makes a mess. When I became an adult, I basically lost motivation for anything work or performance related. I would get my revenge on unsatisfying work situations by drinking at night. If they don't appreciate me, then I won't show up as my best self. Now I'm in my midlife, and for a few reasons, my only option is to start a business. I think the business has a high probability of success, but my daily activities feel like what you referred to as walking through sand and honey. And I'm still drinking, just getting in my own way," he says. "I take occasional breaks from alcohol and enjoy them, but I can't seem to enjoy higher energy and clearer thinking on their own merits for very long. I get bored and self-sabotage again. By the way, I'm not a bad or angry drunk. I laugh more. I wrap it up when I see that it's time to go to bed. But it fogs my mind, keeps me from waking up early, and gives me an excuse for not working at night. I thought when my daughter was born, my drinking habits would change, but they didn't. Part of me wants to think that when I can start helping customers with my business, that will provide a good incentive, and I'm pretty sure that's not true. My sister also self-sabotages, but for her, it's by being overbusy, which makes her tired, and then her goals seem out of reach. My lifelong friend, who I was raised with in the same religion and with very similar parents, has also struggled with motivation for a long time. So I think this is something specific to our situation that created this reaction. I'd love to hear any thoughts you have on this and what you might suggest so that we can stop dragging ourselves down. Thanks." All right. Thomas, let's see if I can help. All right, where I grew up, there were fewer religious people than ideological, zealots. And so I'm really familiar with this situation from people who grew up with parents like, we had communes around here, people had like very intense political beliefs and people with guns on the property and stuff like that. So, I'm familiar with parents being fanatical to the point that they're denying reality. So they weren't terrible, but they had religious wishful thinking. So clearly you're not buying into this religion anymore, that you can control your physical reality with the state of your mind or your soul. And you had asthma, and it is, there's a higher risk of asthma. It's one of the physical health conditions, the chronic illnesses, that is susceptible. For traumatized people have a higher rate of just about everything chronic. And asthma is one of them. And we think it has to do with a dysregulated nervous system. So your asthma, who knows? Who knows? Sometimes I think that we use perfect cause and effect of like, if you have this problem, it's because you had this trauma. And in a way, that is possible. There's truth in it, but it's also possibly the same kind of magical thinking that you were brought up with, you know, that there's this rationalization. It's like, this is the bad thing's happening because of this, and therefore you have to do this thing that I wanted you to do anyway, right? So sometimes I hold trauma wisdom, you know, loosely to just go, hold on, well, let's just see if we can see what's really going on. And some people have asthma because they're vulnerable and because they're in an environment where there's, you know, pollutants that trigger it. So I have had asthma, and it comes and goes with how stressed I am. And so I didn't even have any of it until later. And I think what triggered it is I used to smoke 2 packs a day, but then I couldn't really kick the asthma. And I haven't had asthma in a long time now, which is nice, but I never know. You know, I don't want to be up on a high horse and be like, and then I cured everything. I've had a lot of relief from symptoms like that and migraines. Yeah, he would lose his head. Sounds like he was a perfectionist. He had his religious reason for everything, and he got furious about spilled milk. Yeah, so it sounds like he had real anger issues. Isn't that funny how people with the sweetest religious beliefs, or I'll tell you the other thing, people who talk in baby talk, adults who talk in baby talk, there's anger there. That's like my spidey sense, like anger, red alert. People who are like, hi, I'm just so nice. Yeah, sometimes it's a cover. Okay, so he was focused on grades, and you like just kind of, I think what you're suggesting is that you're maybe rebelling against his perfectionism and control over things. But another explanation, let's just try out a few. One is that you have your parasympathetic nervous system is overactive. You know, the vagus nerve theory that some of us get sort of into overdrive. The sympathetic nervous system is making us kind of amped up and adrenalized all the time. And other people, it's slow, they're sluggish, they can't motivate, and they're in freeze mode. So there's a number, it's sort of like a roll of the dice. It's like what you're describing is common for traumatized people. And we never know exactly why we are the way we are, but you have this. And so then it's interesting that you bring up the drinking. And I would get my revenge on unsatisfying work by drinking at night. And I laughed. I think I muttered, yeah, you showed them, didn't you? And yeah, you'd show up as not your best self. So, you know, you're a dad now. So it's time to stop taking revenge on people by self-sabotaging, right? I think you get that. You're being kind of, you know, you're laughing at yourself here. But yeah, you lost motivation for anything work or performance related. Mm-hmm. Yep, it's a productivity crash of magnificent proportions. But you're still drinking, so here's the thing. I'm just gonna encourage you, you know, yeah, sure, you can pin this on how you grew up. You know, the trauma is sufficient to explain all of this, but that's neither here nor there right now. Right now, you're drinking. You're drinking, and your drinking is keeping you from being sensitive to the signals in your own self about where your meaning lies, how much work is the right amount of work, how much money is the right amount of money, and just being chill, you know, that's called permissive. So when I was a kid, there were a number of parents who were like, my parents made me wear a starchy dress and, you know, be perfect and sit with gloves on. My kids are just going to run naked and do whatever they want. And that's not the solution either. That's not the solution either. So it's time to show up. It's time to stop making your life a reaction to whatever happened in the past and to not be at the effect of the past, to be here in present time. What strikes me, you know, I can give you all these theories, right? Well, you said, I take breaks and I can't seem to enjoy higher energy or clearer thinking on their own merits for very long. It's boring and you self-sabotage. I agree. Clearer thinking all by itself and higher energy all by itself doesn't motivate me either. It's meaning that motivates me. Like deep down inside, I want to make a difference. And so I can't help but think. So I was raised by atheists who laughed at religion. I was free to come up with a concept of God, and that was a huge moment in my development, and it was a moment, you know, when I turned into somebody who that was my reality. I had a definitive experience that there was no going back from. It became very real for me, and I felt that I was not just that a creator exists, but that I am known to the creator. I'm not trying to evangelize you at all. I'm just telling you my experience, and I had been terribly depressed before that, and I had been always looking for happiness in, relationships, which is normal for the age I was. I was like 30 then, and thinking if I could just find the right guy, it would work. But it wasn't happening. And the thing that radically changed my personality and sort of solved that terrible emptiness that had no doubt been generated in my childhood, what changed all that is just having this spiritual awareness and a sense of purpose. And in the same experience where I just went, oh my gosh, God is real, I had certain knowledge that, like, I'm meant for something. I'm somebody. I'm not nobody. I'm intentional. I'm supposed to be here. I have a job to do, and that changed everything for me. And anything less than that was always empty and depressing for me. And I have a theory. I read it in a book once, Joseph Chilton Pearce, called Evolution's End. I read it so long ago, but it influenced me. Where one of his ideas was that when people reach the age of about 15, they have to have some meaning. There needs to be like some understanding of what's the meaning of all this. And if they don't get it, then everybody has to turn to like weed and video games and sex and whatever it is that we do, booze. But meaning is where it is. So higher energy and clearer thinking are, they are boring. They're nice, but they're not enough. And so this was my third theory for you. You threw out the baby with the bathwater. Your parents or your dad's spirituality was just so wrong, and magical thinking and rationalized, helped him get away with being a rageaholic, right? And kind of put it on you, that you just didn't want to touch that. And I just can't help but say, there's some form of spirituality that might be kind of waiting to come to you, and it's your own. It's not, you don't have to take his. You get to have your own experience. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got about spirituality was like, you don't have to believe anything, just see what you experience, but look for it, ask for it. And so I hope it doesn't bother you that you were just like, you were gaslit and spiritually bypassed as a kid, and you had this fake reality. And I'm like, I don't know, you might want to look at that for yourself and have that meaning. So I know a ton of people who are active alcoholics. They're not so much in my life anymore. Most of them died. I know a ton of people who are sober alcoholics, including the woman who showed me my daily practice 30 years ago. I love her for it. I love the sober alcoholics, and the spirituality that the people in AA share is so palpable and real to me and loving. And I don't go to AA, but I was sort of a hanger-on, in that scene, and I found my own 12-step fellowship for a long time. But my spirituality was able to really develop in an atmosphere where you're encouraged, it's like of your own understanding, something greater than yourself. And I think that idea of something greater than ourselves is really important. When I teach the daily practice, I have two basic sign-offs, and one I got from 12-step life, because it's just a really good prayer to ask for your fears and resentments to be removed. And then I do a version that's for people who, they don't pray, they want to appeal to a higher self. But even so, I think if people are very clear that they do not believe in a deity, that we all know there is something bigger than us, and we know this because sperm and egg make a baby. We know this because wounded flesh heals, fevers eventually come down. And there's some healing force inside of us that we don't intellectually control. We don't have to know where it comes from. We certainly can't, well, no, it doesn't stop people. I was going to say we can't really like lord it over other people. It's like, my command of the power of the body to heal is better than yours. But actually, I guess people will do anything. But do you know what I'm saying? It's a pure thing. Like, it just happens. It happens with or without our permission. Puberty arrives, then menopause, not for you, but for me. And and it's natural, and it's supposed to happen, and I didn't have to know where all of this was going. I got to have this, process of life, and still having it. It's not over yet. All kinds of good things are happening, but I'm discovering, this power within myself, and so that's what I like to call it, a power. when you haven't any power, everything is stupid and meaningless. You're right now lacking the power to like figure out what you want to do or start this business you think is a good idea. Maybe it is. So I just want to suggest to you, whether you do it in the secular atheist way or you try out the idea that there's a universe or a healing force, a power greater than you, however you decide to do it. And by the way, you can do it one way when you start, and if you change your mind, you can do it another way. But you try this daily practice that I did that really helped me quickly clear up a lot of the thinking and beliefs that were obstacles to me getting clear, for me to just be myself and be honest and be real and to be rational, you know, to just go, whoa, this relationship is really bad, I need to get out. Or I don't like eating this food and I'm not going to eat it just to be polite. I started to just know myself. I started to, you know, truth couldn't be denied anymore. And that can look very messy at first, right? But if you do the daily practice with a bunch of other people who do it, and you're talking openly with people and going, I don't know, I think I made a mistake. I totally shot my mouth off at work, and now I probably have to quit. They don't trust me, or you know, whatever your misadventures are, as a result of you getting empowered to be more real and more true about who you are. Maybe it's your dad you say something to. I don't know. It takes a lot of power sometimes to not bother saying anything to people who they're just doing their trip, and it doesn't, you know, there's not really anything we can do to get that love or understanding or apology that would, you know, seems like it would be nice. All that stuff, it's nice. It's not really coming back now, but there's love available now. You know, there is healing of the wrongs that we did and the breakdowns in relationships that we lived through. There's healing of those things to be had. This is very meaningful. And having healed that stuff, and when you get your dignity and your power back inside, and I mean that power that comes from within, you probably have a very good thing to bring to the world. And that's my experience. And gradually what's unfolded for me as Crappy Childhood Fairy, and so many of the people who use the daily practice, they unfold too. And it's not like everybody becomes a YouTuber, but people become something much more extraordinary than they were before, something much more positive, loving, and contributing to the world being good. And we can fake it at that stuff. You know, sometimes faking it is better than nothing, you know, to just go volunteer at the soup kitchen. But maybe that's not really your thing, right? Your thing develops by you getting very clear. So one model of getting clear is like you go, what is clear, what is clear? Another one is you name the fears and resentments that are just mucking up your mind. You name them, you ask for them to be removed or release them, as the case may be. And you have a little quiet meditation of just rest and let your brain heal and just kind of see what comes to you. That's what the daily practice is about. There's always a link to the daily practice down below. Maybe you'll give that daily practice a try. I learned it from somebody in AA. Doesn't mean you have to go to AA, or maybe you'll decide to. There's you know, good things to be found there. And for people who, you'll know it. If you go, it'll sort of like draw you in. So you can go give that a try. I think it's really helpful to do something if you can't stop drinking on your own. And I do hear from here, you know, I don't know, the more we learn about alcohol, the more I think like none of us really have any business drinking. But it's okay for, you know, those of us who can do a little here and there. It feels terrible, you know. The more I think about it, the more I go, you know, I just kind of want my vital energy in the morning and the night. But you know, it has its place. But if it's as much a thing as it is here, where you're just talking about being fogged and tired and feeling empty, and yeah, it sounds like you're depressed and you're having trouble, you know, just becoming you, absolutely stop drinking. And if you can't do it by yourself, you know, avail yourself, get some help from the people who know how to do it, wherever you decide to access that. So the daily practice, this is something I just recommend to everybody on the channel. There's hundreds of thousands of people doing it right now, but that's always down in the description section. So under the video, you can see a line of text, and then it says more, and you click that, and it opens, and you'll see a whole bunch of links. And if that fails, go to my website, crappychildhoodfairy.com. All the courses are there. The daily practice is free. There's some paid stuff too. So I wanted to leave you with another free tool. And it's an exercise I have when sometimes you're having trouble getting your vision together of what you really want. And it's called 1 year to heal. So you just pretend like, what if all I had was 1 year to heal? my trauma. And that could happen if you were terminally ill or something, but normally we would not put that kind of pressure on ourselves. But what the heck? It's really simple. It's a set of questions and you answer them and you end up listing for yourself, these are the things I know that I could do right now if I wanted to get better and change my life. So that worksheet is downloadable right here, and I will see you very soon.